Life and Public Safety Committee to order. You all stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Winslow.
Present.
Ermeling.
Present.
Halsted. I did not hear if she was coming. Saranka.
Present.
Paz. Present. Lopez Serrero.
Here.
Olson.
Present.
So it's not physically on here, but the mission statement is on here, and I would like to start all the meetings by physically reading that. It's 1 sentence or a sentence and a half, I suppose. Just to remind us why we're all here, what we're all doing, so we can all get things in the same direction and get our mind on the right page. So the Community Life and Public Safety Committee evaluates and makes recommendations to the village board on matters related to safety, welfare, and livability in the village and their impact upon Village of Weston residents. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please reflect. Last member have arrived. Before we even started regular business, so thank you. Public comment. I have one public comment here in the audience. Is everyone online? I know there was some TV folks that may or may not be.
Staff is online, but if anybody joins, I can let you know.
Fabulous. Okay, so I've got Jeff, is that friends?
Yes.
Perfect. If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Jeff Krenz, 4608 Kellyland Street, on the corner of Ross and Kellyland. The reason I'm here, there's been a couple that happened last year where there are establishments that get permits to allow their noise later than what's normal, and mostly the Aero Sports Bar. I don't know how many people from the neighborhood actually go there, or if that draws people from outside. But when they get permits to have outdoor music in the evenings, and it's usually on weekends, like last year when it was late and it was really loud. I'm only a mile from here. It's probably a mile and a half, 2 miles from Aero Sports Bar. It's a penetrating bass noise that just gets real annoying. And last year they ended at 10. And I know I called the police and they said, well, they got a permit to do that. And then this year, when they had their same things, they went to 11 o'clock. And it's my understanding the ordinance is 10, but they gave them an exception. And then a week later, Kelly Club did the same thing. They went until 11 o'clock. So if you live in this neighborhood, or if you've ever had to listen to that loud kind of noise, the bass that just penetrates really loud, and you're sitting in your living room or trying to go to bed at night or trying to put your kids to bed or grandchildren, it's really hard. So I would ask you to consider not allowing that kind of noise in a residential area, especially where there's families and young families and older people like me, to go that late at night. Even 10 o'clock is kind of late if you've got young kids, and there's a lot of young families. So I don't see what benefit that is for us as a village. And there are some residences that are pretty close to that. I'm like a mile and a half away. So please consider when you allow outside music like that, the kind of music that can travel pretty far. And I think when I went to the other meeting, and it was Mark Maloney might have said he lives across the river, he could hear it too over there. So please consider what that does to residents of the neighborhoods where those establishments are. And if there really is any benefit to the village residents to have that happen, even though it's occasional, it's mostly in the summer, it's hard to get to sleep those nights. So, and if you have to turn it back to 9 o'clock or earlier, that would be nice. But please consider it. Any questions? I appreciate your time. I've lived in this community for 30 years. It's wonderful. I've never had any complaints. You as public servants, you do a wonderful job. You keep our taxes reasonable. It's worth it. You built a nice building here, and it's great that you have that we have that finally. So everything else I'm really happy with, really proud of. We have a great community here, except that one little thing, and I hope you understand that. So, appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Any other public comments or folks online? Written communications? See none on the agenda, maybe that's a.
I think we missed minutes. We just gotta go back up to minutes.
Very well, you are correct, yes. Minutes from August 8th, 24, regular meeting. I'll second. Motion to approve the minutes as presented by Ermeling, second by Weston. Any debate on the question? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carried. I'll try it. Written communications. The Mercy Bank. Okay, good. We correct the agenda to remove the none.
I think we didn't have any none at time of printing, that's why we just put none there.
Very well. Code enforcement update. Carrie, Jennifer, maybe.
We just decided to put a report in. Carrie created that report. If you have any questions, it's just basically to give you an update on what we've been doing since the last time that we met.
Questions on that? We need a motion to acknowledge that, right?
I'll move to acknowledge.
Motion by Weston to acknowledge.
Make a motion to a second.
Okay, very well, and second. Vice Walker. Debate on the motion. All those in favor of approving as you were, of acknowledging the report, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carried. Discussion and or action on expansion of ATV UTV operation on village roadways.
Maybe I'll start and then Chief and Jen can jump in. I don't know that you want to put a motion on the floor, maybe we just want to discuss it for a little bit first. So there was a map included in the packet, just trying to get my not orientation, but sizing right, just so it's visible. Chief Hunt worked with us on what roads would be open. This would be, if we were comfortable with proceeding with opening these roads, it would go to village board for approval. And then, as Jennifer pointed out in the request for consideration in the RFC, we would have to make an ordinance adjustment on which roads would be listed, and it's easiest to do a refer to the map than to list out all the roads or to list the roads that aren't open. But in addition to that, Chief Hunt added a series of other things that we would include in our ordinance, things that we had talked about last time, as far as like no cruising on the streets, going just back and forth with no purpose on, just cruising back and forth, and no open intoxicants in the vehicle. So I would let Jen and Chief add if they had more that they wanted to share on that.
Okay. So some of the roads that are in here, we're kind of cautious because we didn't want the entire Ross Avenue open. So you can see there's a split in there on Ross Avenue. And so we try to keep some of that stuff in mind when we're doing the map. So we're keeping it off the truck roads and stuff. But the ordinance had to be rewritten in some areas, again, for that alcohol and the cruising part of it. And I look back on our stuff, we haven't had any ATV things in Rothschild. I remember one crash in Croninwetter that was on Pine Road, and X, and other than that, I don't see a lot of problems or issues that we've had with them, so. Some of the private property stuff you can see are some voids in the map because obviously we can't get permission for those areas, so. I appreciate the cooperative effort with the staff at Weston working on this. I hope it's adequate for everybody or works for everybody, so.
Michael?
I just have one quick question. I know this came up a couple of years ago. From a little piece of, was that Old Costa, Fuller, and Teagan Lane? Like, Schofield Ave is really the only connection between those three little streets. I don't know if it was the map, if you're able to zoom in on that. So Old Costa goes to the south. I know that was just a hang up, because it does, that is kind of a pinch point that does separate the village kind of east to west. Unless you go around like Shorey to Alderson. So if you scroll up a little bit. Still up here. Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah, there's a map. So, this is Old Costa, Fuller, Teagan. Yeah, so this little quarter-mile stretch, Schofield Ave, I don't have a great idea what you do with that, or if that's a thought of. I know that was a discussion the board had a few years ago, was how do we handle that? Do we handle it? Do we just keep it closed and if people use it, they get cited, or? People cross that master to get to the north side.
Yes.
Yeah, and that'll be signalized. They just can't get some. Yeah, so I mean, if you come south on Mesker, you still get stuck right here. Can't keep going, right? Like nothing on the south in between Schofield Ave and Highway 29 connect on the south side. Other than that, I just don't have a great answer for how you.
I don't have a concern on law enforcement side.
Okay.
And the likelihood of somebody getting a ticket to get from one little spot to another, but that would be something up to the committee if they want to open that up for that little segment. I don't have a concern, but I just didn't think we wanted vehicles ripping up and down. I shouldn't use those terms, but driving on Schofield Avenue, you know, good long stretches, but I don't have an issue. If there's some other changes to it, this is a good recommendation for the board to make a decision on.
I think we need to avoid Schofield Avenue as much as possible. I mean, people are going to have to get used to having them on the road as it is, and Schofield Avenue, they just go. I mean, it's not a real safe place to be. Cross it.
You missed public comment. But public comment is over, we'll get to it.
Yeah. Well, the only comment I have, Barb, is, going parallel to Schofield is fine, but we do have crossing spots, right?
Oh, you're right.
Okay, so we can cross Schofield Avenue, we just don't want to be on Schofield. That's fine, okay.
Chief Hunt, would that be difficult to, or confusing to enforce, or to, right, if you turned it on at Old Costa and turned it off at Ryan, that?
So, because it would just refer to the map, and if it's open on the map, obviously what's going to happen is officers will look at the map and refer to it if they have issues in one area. And obviously they know on the majority of Schofield Avenue per se that you can't have ATVs on for UTVs.
So we'd be in support of turning on just that one piece, if we're not stretch, but the rest of it turn off.
I don't have any issue with it.
comments on this map as presented?
Not on the map, I just have a question about the ordinance itself.
Yes, sir.
So I was reading through Cronenwater and Rothschilds, and I think one thing that I really like is making sure that we're consistent between the communities with our ordinance so that there's ease of going from one community to the other. I think that's kind of the whole point of this is so people can go around. I guess one question you had just brought up, prohibiting open intoxicants in UTVs from, unless I missed it, I didn't see that as a prohibition in Rothschild or Cronenwater. Is there a reason that we're choosing to do that, or?
Yeah, I can answer that. That was a recommendation of the board. So when we were reviewing this, we added it, and once this ordinance goes through, then Rothschild will change in accordance to this one, and then hopefully Schofield. So I gotta wait till one's approved, then I can go back and look at the other ones. So good comment on that.
Yeah, has there been any input or communication from the ATV and UTV groups that we had talked about last time? I would reach out to them, and other than the survey, have they reached out and said, hey, we like this map, we don't like this map, we have to have XYZ road?
I have not, but I have talked to Pegasinski in the past and sat down with, I can't remember her first name off the top of my head. Her husband's Dave, Dave Pegasinski's wife, and I have sat down with her in the past when we started our ordinance, and they're absolutely okay with opening more roads up, and they've never come or said that we have to or shouldn't do. They just are proponents of opening more roads up to increase their.
And then on that same token, the entry from Schofield, so we have Ross restricted, right? But you would still enter Trot Street down Alderson or some of the other crossings. Turned on, maybe.
I can go back to the.
Looks like it's,
That's actually,
or is it not?
a freebie.
The only actual Schofield Street that connects to is closer to, Business 51 at Charles. Otherwise, both of them kind of dead ends to the backside there. The railroad tracks.
So that's your only entrance from Schofield is Charles.
Or Jelnik extended. So Charles is a little north of McDonald's back there.
What about, it's not on this map because the road doesn't exist yet. Can we include language to allow the Arrowhead Estates subdivision and the Green Acres, Green Tree, Greenwood outfit?
Green Tree. Or would that just be a map update on those roads that they do exist?
Yeah, but maybe language here that says when the road does exist,
Oh,
we're good
sure.
with having that, so it doesn't have to physically come back here, so that we can redraw the map that life is good, it's already there.
I think it should be able to put them on that because they've been planted, so I think we just don't kind of update it.
Right, like we didn't have a copy here to draw it on, but
Right.
it do exist somewhere.
We can do that before the board.
So. And then I saw too that the page 23 in the packet shows 2,000 pounds. We strike that and replace it with 3,000 pounds for that vehicle, or maybe just remove that description completely, just refer to the state statute, because that was changed in 24 maybe. That would make sense. I don't know if it's easier to just refer to that or to get to have our own. Any discussion on?
What is this done to you?
For UTV.
Because I mean, the only problem I have is if you're looking through that, and it tells you to go and check that, Wisconsin DNR. And you don't have to computer or anything like that.
Everything else is the same. I believe all the other 2 headlights and a brake light and 65 inches, which does restrict some of the UTVs, they are wider than that. But that's what the state deals with. Unless you have like the super duper go fast fancy suspension one bar.
No, I got a dump box on mine.
You're probably good on 65.
To get a license, it has to go through the DNR meets. You have to fill out those items, does it have roll bars, is it commercially made, does it have seat belts, all that good stuff, and if it's narrower than 65 inches. So to get a Wisconsin DNR license, it has to meet those regulations.
So is that sufficient? Then can we just write means Wisconsin DNR for valid Wisconsin DNR license?
That's your call for the committee. I read it right here. It just says up to 3,000 pounds. We can just change it and go that route, however you want to do it. If you want to DNR restrictions, or if you want to just put 3,000, it's perfectly fine.
3,000 is easier, it's just backspace and put in the 3. And then
Right.
it's also located in the ordinance in case somebody would be looking just at that and not at.
Does it show that they have to have a current DNR registration outfit?
I'm not sure where it says that they need to be licensed, but I do believe it says that they,
From my recollection, it does. I just don't have a quick search on it.
it says, this part says that they have to have a valid license, but it,
Change it to DNR registration.
well, we could add it. DNR or license and DNR registration.
And there's 2. So there's one that you pay every year, every 2 years, and then the other one is off-road only, like on your property. And then you only pay once and then it's done. I bought that one, but I still learn the rules. It's not wrong. That's a joke.
So we need a motion to recommend these following additions and corrections and subtractions and changes, yes.
If the committee would like to, it would be a recommendation to the board to adopt the ordinance changes in the map.
Could I try making a motion to approve the ordinance as presented with the adjustments discussed for the expansion of the ATV UTV roads through the wilderness? Makes sense.
With the map,
Yes.
Yes.
So a motion by Ms. Morano to approve the UTV, ATV operation on village roadways as presented with the following additions. Jamie, what are those?
add Green Tree and Arrowhead addition roads. Change the weight to not more than 3,000 pounds, and add that you have to have your Wisconsin driver's license and DNR registration.
And second by Olson. To, again, a yes vote is to approve, recommend to the board of trustees to accept this as presented with the changes we discussed. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Oh,
Ask this question.
you may, I'm sorry. I'm trying to rush through this part. Mark's in our this next meeting.
Yeah, well, Mark is always, but anyway, does this include opening up school then?
The map discussion that we had which was not specifically called out by Administrator Beaver, but it does make a difference, yes, so let's clarify that. So this would be to include, I guess you could divide the motion to add that, right?
Well, Schofield Avenue would be restricted except for this piece on the other side of County Road J.
And it was discussed between Old Costa and Ryan.
Okay,
Do that being limited. Does that change your vote as well, Barb? No, that's fine, okay. So, as the motion that you made, you're,
I guess, somebody would need to amend my motion, because my motion did not include Schofield Avenue. It was just as the map was presented.
okay, so that's presented with no changes on Schofield Avenue.
Letting people figure it out.
Okay, no changes on Schofield Avenue. Schofield Avenue off limits is a yes vote, no vote is no need to be changed.
But somebody can make the comment, obviously.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. All those opposed, say no. Zero. Motion carried. Update on pedestrian traffic, Camp Lakes Road between East Everest and Westview.
there was just a brief memo in the packet from Michael and I about just updating that the bridge deck that goes over Highway 29 at this moment still has a decent amount of lifespan in it. And that bridge deck would be owned by the state. And if it would be repaired, that would be when pedestrian accommodations would be added. Outside of the ramps is owned by the county, but once you hit the on-ramps and the bridge deck would all be state. Michael has that wonderful institutional knowledge and remembered that this conversation had come up when the pedestrian bridge was built. And that was a large reason why it was built, because that bridge deck still has that remaining life. And the state at that point didn't agree to put in the pedestrian accommodations there. So we have a TAP grant for pedestrian and bicycle. It's a master plan, and we would add in there that we'd like pedestrian accommodations. And then Michael will also reach out to our representative for the North Central region at the DOT and just discuss with him that we're adding that to our master planning, because we'd like to see that when that bridge deck is redone, but it likely wouldn't be prior to 2030. There is a redecking that's scheduled, which is essentially taking care of the surface pavement, but wouldn't be enough to add the pedestrian accommodations.
Right, that's how we ended up with the pedestrian bridge.
Any other comments or questions on pedestrian traffic?
We will make it known that's what we would like, but until it comes into a full bridge reconstruction.
Is there any action that we have to take here to do that, or that will just happen by itself?
No, I just think we'll have the minutes note that it was strongly encouraged that it's added to the master plan because the committee would like to see it, and then we have it on record.
Discussion and or action on amendments of ordinances for enforcement of municipal citations in reference to crimes on cell phones.
Chief, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So it's brought to my attention from the officers in the school that they deal with a large amount of kids using cell phones for things that they shouldn't be using. Due to ages on the kids, we don't have much of a recourse on it. And we're not just talking about a kid and take a picture here, a picture there, and send it to somebody. These are repeat acts that continue, and we don't have any way of doing anything with it. So the question was if we can get an ordinance enacted so they can write ordinance citations on it to try to curb some of that behavior. Because we can take care of it through the municipal court instead of not doing anything or referring to a criminal court setting per se. So that was the reason for the suggestion. It's really SRO based, they take most of the calls for this stuff in the schools. And I hate to tell anybody, but it's happening on a daily and weekly basis, so it's not like it's just few and far between, it's a continued occurrence that happens.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the operator's license required too?
Sure. So, this was brought up earlier about the Rothschild ordinance and the Weston ordinances. So we have an ordinance in Rothschild that if you don't have a driver's license for whatever reason, you can't operate a motor vehicle and or a motorcycle. Therefore, we issue municipal citations for those. If you are suspended, revoked, or operating without a driver's license, it's either a municipal citation or it goes to criminal court. Some people end up with multiple offenses. So sometimes, let's just say it's a 17-year-old kid who doesn't have a driver's license and it's a first occurrence, you could write them an ordinance citation to try to limit them from getting into the system. Or something showing up on a driver's license. It's just another tool for us to use. And we've been using it for years in Rothschild and it's worked out very well, probably 4 or 5 years. In ordinance citations do not show up any driving record, they do not affect your insurance. And a lot of times if someone does a background check, if they don't go to that police department, people don't see it on the background. So it's just another tool to keep it away. It's kind of decriminalizing per se, operating without a driver's license.
So these items, they would still have to come back to the committee, just because we have to add them into Weston's ordinance. We're just numbered slightly different than Rothschild is numbered. So you would see them likely again next month, but we just wanted to bring forth the draft wording, just if there was anything that anyone saw in these three that was concerning or that they wanted to discuss.
You want me to jump into the security one?
Sure.
So the security ordinance is in place currently, but was brought to my attention that we have individuals that are purposely propping doors open to allow other individuals that may not attend our school system. So it allows them to come in. So somebody might run to a door and prop it, and then somebody else can enter the school without being accounted for. And they want, this was brought to my attention again, school resource officers. They want something there that says that it's against the ordinance to do that, so that they have some bite in there to enforce it. Otherwise, we don't have much room to enforce it, shut the door, but that's not helping out with the school safety portion of what's taking place. So I know it sounds sometimes a little trivial on why we do some of these things, but there's an importance part behind it. So.
I think that will get deeper into on 11, on operator and school property one, right?
Yep. Sorry, I jumped ahead of you a little
That's
bit.
okay, no, they're kind of listed under both, so understood. Okay, so where did the language for these come from? Is this from another, does I see dates on from 2017, from 21? Is this stuff that exists in Rothschild or other?
Yes, it does.
Got it.
Yep. The cell phone one is new. So you guys are the start of that for Weston. As soon as Weston goes through with theirs, then Rothschild will go through. However, the operator license is intact. And currently in Weston, the security on school property is intact, just with some changes. And in Rothschild, we don't have that because we're dealing with different grades of schools, not meaning it doesn't happen, but we probably will enact it because things are changing. So that's something I have to bring back.
Motion to,
For this one, I think if you wanted to make just a motion to table to next meeting, that would be okay, because then we'll bring it back in the Weston ordinance form.
Make motion to table to next meeting.
table this until next meeting. October. Second.
Second.
Second by Solana. Motion is to table this until October. Any discussion on motion?
I just have a few questions. Yes. Have we had any conversations with social services about the cell phone ordinance discussion?
I have not sat down and talked to anybody about it. Just, but
I guess that would be my only concern is I would assume that typically those things are being referred to DSS to try to work with the kids and educate them and do that kind of stuff. You know, I'm super supportive of trying to handle those things outside of the courts, obviously, and helping with education, but I also don't want to see somebody just get a ticket and then there's no education component to it. So I guess that was my only thought is what DSS's feedback would be, because I'm not super familiar with what they're doing with these cases either, as far as the education part. So I'm just wondering if we're gonna have a lapse there.
from my understanding, it was a referral or with charges or nothing. And I can follow up on that at the next meeting.
And then for the OWL ordinance, so I guess is the practice that's used mostly for first time unlicensed drivers, people like that, or people who are repeatedly OWS, outright suspended, getting this ordinance taken as well?
It's been widely used across the board in different situations. Some of them are the ones where basically the DA's office doesn't want any more tickets. So then, you know, we leave somebody drive or we go a different route. That's one of them. So it's been officer discretion and widely used in different aspects of it.
So there's the potential that we would issue an ordinance ticket instead of a criminal.
There is those opportunities, and we have had situations where how many do you refer up and nothing's getting done, and we just get ready and we get one charge. So there's other opportunities with that.
Yeah, I mean, if a person is repeatedly driving while revoked, when they're revoked for OWI, we're giving them an ordinance ticket. I mean, are they really gonna pay that ticket if they're willing to go around and commit a criminal act? And sometimes that criminal act, I don't know, I guess that's my concern is, I totally understand it for young drivers who made a mistake, people who are new to our area who don't have licenses, things like that. But if they're not getting a criminal offense because we're just giving them an ordinance ticket, I guess that's my concern.
Yeah, it's been widely used in different aspects of it, and I haven't seen that it's been abused or overused. The other thing is in municipal court, we run a tax intercept. So when they have to file a tax at the end of the year, get a tax return, we're usually get in line at some point down and those are paid first. So they do end up paying a penalty on it, but we all run into situations. Sometimes it's the over penalty part of it. Does somebody deserve to get a criminal charge? Sometimes, and there's situations that even a criminal offense constitute that maybe a ordinance citation better than a criminal charge. So, but I haven't seen that it's been abused on either side. That you know, I think it's discretion of the officers and they've done a good job with it. So.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on motion to table? All those in favor of not taking action until October on this, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. Everyone carried. Discussion and or action on future exploration of commercial building inspections program.
Just an update from since our last meeting. Jennifer and I met with TA Maddox of E-Plan exam via video conference call on August 21st. And just to try to figure out exactly what potentially our next steps could be with partnering with E-Plan exam for plan review. They're currently not accepting any additional partnerships until first quarter of 2025. So as far as partnering with them, it's off the table for the rest of the calendar year. But the village would also need to have a commercially certified building inspector on staff in order for E-Plan to partner with the village in that plan review capacity. So as part of the becoming a delegated municipality, and them running through that process is having a commercially certified building inspector on staff. So great information from Mr. Maddox as far as, what the village could expect. Return, the city of Wausau's, agreement with them is a 10% return on plan review fees, to the municipality. So, we would expect a 5 to 10% return on plan review fees the village would, for partnering with E-Plan. But the recommendation would be to table the topic until 2025. As that partnership is not a viable opportunity at this time.
I'll say something on that one.
How long, you were talking about going through the training to become the, commercial inspector? I mean, is that something that in preparation, I mean, how long will that take for you to get through that?
It's passing the state exam, to get that certification. So, I haven't taken the exam myself yet, but there are training courses available. The next exam would be December of this calendar year. So it is a possibility that, that could be done this calendar year to have a commercially certified building inspector on staff. So, there is an expense with that sort of test. So, it's definitely something that we've looked into from a pricing standpoint, and it's about $1,200 for the course and test.
Is it held locally? Is there someplace?
It's online,
Okay,
yep, through the International Code Council.
Right, yeah, so I think if we're gonna be looking at this, we gotta know that we've got a certified, doesn't put your cart before the horse. Because when you explain that some of the stuff, commercial buildings just don't have any inspection payments here.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the plan review letters that come back from the state, typically there's anywhere from 5 to 6 pages of additional items that the state identifies on a plan review. And that's just for like Norcon's new building, for example. It's about 1/3 office space and 2/3 repair shop. That has 5.5 pages of additional notes from the state that there's, whether it was just omitted from the original floor plans or just not indicated. So when they go through that plan review process, they generate this letter and it gets sent out to us, the fire department, the submitter. And so then there's a whole list there, and if no one's there to double check that, it's entirely possible that the items could get missed. So.
Now, that was the only reason I could see that.
I mean, the state building inspector's been on vacation for the last week and a half, so anything that was needed in inspection last week, there was no opportunity for him to even be there.
So you have to be certified to do that. Okay.
Was there, our 24 budget, is there $1,200 there to do your test? So you can be ready to go for Christmas?
Yeah.
Just in case. You don't need direction from us to do that, right? You're just on the pilot.
It's just, there's funding every year for continuing education.
What third-party inspector options do we have available?
There are within an hour radius of Weston, so going up to Merrill, even Three Lakes, and then down to Wapaka. There's 6 commercially certified building inspectors in that area.
And their cost?
I have not been able to garner fees from them, other than the city of Wausau. Obviously, they have a commercial building inspector on staff. They would be we've obviously partnered with them in the past when it comes to commercial electrical inspections. In the past, if Scott was on medical leave or when he was semi-retired, they were writing commercial electrical inspections. So it would all depend on capacity for them, but we do have a standing inspection agreement with them. And I believe that's $100 an hour is what they charge us currently for inspections on the electrical side. So that would be the closest option for us to get a outside inspection service. But then the other individuals in the central Wisconsin area, I would need to contact them for fee schedule.
So you bring that. Absolutely.
Are we encouraging women to get the training, correct?
Right, so you didn't read my whole sheet here, Barb. That's okay. I'll get you a copy. So what is the actual staff cost or investment on this? We talked about this some last time. There's gonna be staff time in this, there's gonna be, right, because you still have 200 houses to inspect. And now you have 50 commercial buildings. Travis just doesn't go home at night or what is that?
Yeah, absolutely. He's got to work overtime for free. No, I mean, we've really, since Travis came on staff, and we're really getting him down the path of being autonomous when it comes to inspections with the residential side of what we do. So we're really making sure that we're either going in two directions, being more productive with our time. Where there was a lot of building stuff with the old building and facilities that Scott and I were working on jointly. So there was a lot of, if you will, mentorship on Scott's end for what the old facilities that we have. We don't have that. We got a new facility. Travis has been on board basically since we got into this building. Not on day one, but really close. So he's just been able to step into those responsibilities with this new building, particularly with the HVAC system. So I try very, very hard to make sure that we are not in the same place at the same time, and that we're making sure we're as productive as we can be throughout the day. So when it comes to capacity inside of the department, I believe there's capacity there to take on the building inspections on the commercial aspect. I guess if you're looking for a specific breakdown in relation to how many permits we issued last year, I could definitely try and figure out, if we had the same number of permits in 2025, this would be what we'd need to have for hours.
I think just kind of a contingency plan of like worst case scenario, if we turn it on and life is good and you're the in-house guy, but you don't have time to do it, okay, we can run this third party, we can use Wassa, we can use whoever, process close or similar, so we're not holding, we change it that we're gonna do commercial inspections here, but now we gotta hold up this commercial project. Our guy's busy, keeping our house or fixing the boiler or whatever you do, right?
Yeah, and so that was, Jennifer brought up during the meeting with DA Maddox. There still is we do have the ability as a delegated municipality to call in the state for backup. Okay, not that in a contracted service, but like, for example, with a larger project, we could definitely ask for assistance on a larger project. Like, not that we're gonna get another GTCC anytime in the next decade, but that size project, there's a lot of square footage, a lot of inspections, and so we do have that, not exactly contract, but pseudo backup where he's still able to come in and assist with that stuff. And I understand where you're coming from with having.
It could be a week out though, right? And
It's entirely possible.
so you can call through the Theo and have him come down or whatever it takes to keep the project.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from.
And then any additions to your budget for 26th budget thing?
Is there any concern as just how many new
municipalities that they potentially expect to be able to bring on in 25? Is there something we need to start now to potentially reserve our spot? Or if we wait till 25, are we gonna be, they're only taking on 2 and we miss our shot at it?
Great question. Based on my conversations with Mr. Hebert over in Wausau, he's really pushing for the city of Schofield to utilize E-plan exam as well, which would give us, we would definitely want to try and get in on the front side of 2025. All dependent on having a commercial building inspector. But I think from a service standpoint, I think it's really big if Wausau, Schofield, Grid Mountain are all using the same exact plan reviewers, that we provide that same level of service as well.
Yeah, I just don't make sure we don't miss our opportunities. I'm assuming it's a staffing issue for them that they can't take on more capacity, and I doubt they're gonna add 10 people starting the first of the year that they can take on.
They're definitely looking at expanding. So the 37 municipalities that they currently have, their contract is plan review guaranteed in 15 days. And that's why they put a hold on it this fourth quarter, is they didn't want to jeopardize their 15-day plan review time frame until they have more people on staff to be able to account for it. So I totally understand, yes. The sooner the better, to not lose our spot.
So if we see this back next month, then.
Yeah, so we'll get back with some additional numbers next month.
Very well. On to 10, new business, discussion and or action on current traffic patterns around Weston Elementary School. That's something I asked to be on the agenda. Weston Elementary, obviously, right down the road here. School just started. We got the fancy flashy lights now, which is great, but that doesn't help the craziness that happens on Camp Phillips, Sternberg, etc. Yeah. 156 parents trying to pick up all at the same time, one eastbound and westbound, parking on the road, there's still traffic going, you get kids crossing. Michael had talked about this, he's felt the school thing and how there was a potential rerouting of traffic for pickup, and I don't know if this is just a parental education piece that goes out or what that looks like to route them across the South Timber to Sternberg, so you don't have two-way traffic parked down the street with cars parked in the street, people trying to get in and out of their house and then people driving up and down.
Yeah, 'cause I don't know if there was a discussion with Mountain Bay Metro recently. That was something I discussed with the principal and some of the former Everest Metro officers over there.
Officer Lovelace is based at Weston Elementary this year, and so I think Chief has had a conversation with him. If Chief, you want to expound a little more?
So about a month ago, we sat down and this has been a concern. And so Matt,
Who is Officer Lovelace?
Yeah. He was jumping around from school to school. He is now stationed at Weston School, and we've had this discussion, and we've had discussion with different groups on how to pick people up. And so if there's any issue, I just need to know about it, and then we can Matt, but I think we can handle. We never had an officer in the school before. They jump in and out from day to day, but they weren't stationed. He's got an actual office. We should be good. If we're not, then we need to address it again, but I think it's good.
President Maloney, I think you had mentioned, I forgot you're actually on this.
I was reading these things.
No, you're actually part of this.
I'm sorry, I heard Maloney and then I put my head up.
So, I know you had mentioned last year multiple times that you have, I don't know if there was folks entering off of Camp Phillips into that front pickup area and then they put phones out or something.
Yeah, last year it was kind of a double, but now this year I haven't, well, just started, but they're not picking up the kids up. So hopefully that stays that way because that would double back 2 blocks. If they stay in the normal route and the buses do their little loop, I think it works. I think some of the parents or maybe the school is getting impatient and then letting them come in front, which I think is extremely dangerous. I know the lights, I like the lights, but I think people are driving through too fast. And I feel for those people on the walkways, you know, if you're not looking for that vest or, well, I'll tell you, sometimes you don't see those little kids are so small, it's gonna get darker than both times in the morning and night. And I mean, I honestly think there should be monster flashing lights. I know we have the normal lights. I was expecting to get the LED ones, that if you look over on St. Anne's off of, where is that, Stewart? Is that Stewart on St. Anne's and Washington? Bridge Street, I think. Yes, those are really bright LED lights. And I mean, they flash like they're taking your picture. I mean, Louis, you probably know how those look compared to ours.
I spent a lot of time there this morning.
You did, you did, you did. Well, I mean, ours are those big round ones and they're just a normal light. And they, you know, at first they were too high and now they're a little bit better, but those LEDs, you think you're getting your picture taken, you know, it catches your attention. It's not off. I'm sorry I wasn't being. And we are gonna get around that, right? Yes, I believe so, Michael. Yes.
Yes.
I think that'll help a ton. I know it's a stop and go light, but when that's a green light, you're just charging right through there.
Yeah.
And
And
it'll
this,
get shifted to the east, which will create a little bit of you know, you gotta know what you're doing and you have to steer your cars. Okay.
and when the roundabout goes in, that driveway will be taken out in front of Weston Elementary. That round,
Oh,
that circular drive, that will be removed.
oh, that's great. Okay. So. Okay.
So no action on that, right? We just wait and see what happens.
Well, and the big thing, I know Michael, and I know staff has said that that's county, I mean, that's Campbell Road, it's the county's road, but it's our kids. You know, and I never forget what's going on there. Those are our kids, and I know it's the county's road, so. I mean, sometimes we have to do something ahead of time and then ask for the money from the county.
Discussion on traffic patterns. Moving on to municipal ordinance amendments, operator's license, and discussions to security on school property. Chief Humphrey just on this a little bit. There's some language in the packet here. What those actually look like. Any other discussion on that, or we just wait for it to come back next month in fancy Weston format?
I guess my thought on the operator license, so I agree with the Lucian part, but I also like the idea of this in part, so there you go, nice even answer for you. I like the idea of first-time offenders, I like the idea of those types of situations. I know, you know, the first time you get a ticket for operating off a suspended license, they suspend your license even longer, and before you know it, you're in this never-ending hole of suspensions you're never gonna get out of. So I am totally in favor of this for situations like that, where, you know, that would just be a municipal ticket, but in this case, we could write them this ticket and it wouldn't necessarily suspend them longer, so maybe there's some light at the end of the tunnel. I would not be in favor of this for taking criminal violations and using this ordinance instead. So if it's like criminal operating a federal license, criminal operating equivocation, I think we should just let the courts deal with that. I understand what Chief Hunt says after the 14th ticket, is anything going to get done with it? I guess my thoughts on that's always have been, we do our part and what other people do with their part is up to them and on them. But I like this idea for, you know, like you said, those discretionary situations where you can maybe help somebody out, like here's a citation, but you're not gonna lose your license for 6 more months. You maybe can get your license back quicker, but I just don't know that I would be in favor of it for those criminal violations.
I just have one quick addition to that scenario. So if somebody doesn't have the driver's license, they get their first citation, then the next time they get stopped, then it becomes a criminal offense. So we use those in those circumstances. So if somebody gets their second offense, operating without a license, situation could even be somebody didn't get their license renewed, they get a citation, and they still didn't get it renewed, then the next one would be a criminal offense. So we've used them in different aspects of it. I get all the points on it and I agree with it, and I should probably get the statistics on it once to just see what it is, if I can call
And maybe that would alleviate kind of my concern, obviously. You know, I see what you're talking about, I mean, I did this for years.
them. If this gets tabled to the next meeting, which it is, I'll, find out how many citations in Rochester we've written in the last 2 years or 3 years, just to see how many times, and I'm sure it hasn't been overused, but maybe I'm wrong, so let's just see what it comes up as.
Yeah. And that may alleviate some of the concerns.
Any discussion on?
Can I just add one more?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, it's like I had 5 agenda items like last time.
You were limited to 5.
A lot of people don't know that, in the law enforcement world, the municipal court is kind of a friend to municipalities. And so let's just say Edgar, for example, partnered with Rothschild, so that when they issue citation, that just doesn't go to the county. When we issue citations in, anywhere else, like Schofield, Weston, Rothschild, even the town, that money comes back, and what's collected doesn't come to the police department. It goes to the general fund for the municipality. And I'm not saying we write tickets to support the municipality, but it's sometimes better to support the municipality than go into the county. So that money does come back to the general fund. And the general funds do count on revenues from many different sources. And so a lot of people don't realize that when we collect money, it comes back to the general fund. So sometimes people think, well, it's just the police department generating revenue, but it actually comes back to the municipality to repay the law enforcement that we do. And a lot of people don't understand. So it's not like it comes to the police department budget, it goes to the general fund, but it also is from our efforts that we do. So just a little food for thought. Some people don't understand the municipal versus the circuit court part of it. If it goes to circuit court, it goes to the county, and municipalities don't see any of those funds coming back. So if we write a barking dog complaint or not registering the pet, that comes back to the general fund and helps out the staff for all the efforts they have to do, doing all these property maintenance events that they have to do. So just something to think of. I don't know if they explain that significantly.
On that, Chief, so we got a budget meeting here right after this. There's about a $250,000 shortfall. I think adding these 2 tickets, is that gonna take that up?
No.
Sorry, Jessica, we still gotta meet at 6. Any action on this? Motion to defer, come back in October with Nancy Weston writing. Motion by Ermeling to defer until October. Is there a second? Second by Foss. Discussion on the motion. Well, all those in favor of deferring until October, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carried. Discussion and or action on proposed amendments to Chapter 6 alcohol licensing.
Was a brief memo RFC in the packet from Clerk Brame, just, this was our first ordinance that we had on the list that we wanted to go through and review. I can let the clerk speak too, but just after recent training, we know that we've reviewed our ordinance and we still need to maintain an ordinance in case there would be an operator that would want to license just in the village of Weston, even with the state changes to the law. And we adopt the state changes to the law just with adopting the ordinance 125. So there wouldn't be any changes that would be needed because of the state law change within our municipal ordinance, but having the committee have an opportunity to review it, if there would be other changes that we wanted to talk about or work through, we could do that and bring those back for the next meeting. I didn't mean to speak for you, sorry.
That's okay, you did well.
Do you have anything to add?
No, she pretty much said it. The state license that is now, well, they're still working at how it's going to work. I was just at a conference Thursday and Friday, and they haven't even set the fee for it yet. So it's still kind of in the process of being created. There's going to be a sign up through the Department of Revenue website. There's going to be access not to the general public, but to see your name is on there, but that would just be, we still feel that there's going to be potentially enough local operators just in the village of Weston, just still coming to Weston to get their operator's license, because I was told that the fee is gonna be much greater, much larger than the municipal fee, so. And then if you would want that, obviously you would be working at multiple places in the state, so it might just be certain individuals. But I'm open for any questions or comments about the changes.
So, believe it or not, I have a couple. The version that's shown in here, I think is an old version we had talked last month. At the board of trustees, we made an amendment to this ordinance and all of them to remove references to Everett Metropolitan Police Department. I think it just says police, or police department, or police chief, or something, but EMP language was removed. Which doesn't reflect in here, but I believe it is currently approved as such by the
Yeah,
village.
it is.
So those of us on CLPS only, be advised, the EMPD stuff has already been removed. It's been fixed. And then I just had a question for Chief Hunt. Is there any language that you need or want to add to this for prohibitions on Delta 8, 9, 10, LMLP that need to go in here? Or is that different?
Have to, look at it here, but yes.
Yes, you want something added for Delta.
You have to see where, we talked about that early on. Yes, possibly. If it came from Jamie, then yes, but I can't remember where it falls in the ordinance.
I think I have to do something.
Okay, great, because that does apply to that. We have to get back to you, sorry.
Okay, no problem. So do we need to defer action on this, or?
I don't know that there would be action unless, because that might not fall within this ordinance. That could just be a future agenda item.
Yeah, we can bring it back if we need it.
And I apologize, what is it called again? What would it be called in ordinance?
It's the heavy duty stuff.
The heavy
I
duties.
believe it falls under the zoning part of it. I think Jennifer's right on that. I don't remember the exact title on it, but it deals with, correct. We'll get back,
Okay,
sorry.
what kind of establishment?
Yeah, it has to deal with zoning for dispensary and stuff like that.
Got it.
So I apologize, it's been.
So no action taken, but the question, your question was.
I wasn't sure what you were.
Yeah, it's some other
Talking about
intoxicant.
We're talking about dispensaries and stuff like that, we're Delta 9, and, but it falls under zoning, and we enacted that in Rothschild, where you just can't open a dispensary, within city limits, and, it's just a protection for municipalities, but we'll get back on that house.
Any discussion on, chapter 6? Discussion and or action on interest and presentation regarding reintroduction of public transit service in the village of Weston. Where did this come from?
So myself, and I think Michael is a member too. You're not a member? You've just been attending the meetings for fun? You're like, no.
I just got the email.
Okay. There is a transit work group that was put together by the MPO, the WASA MPO. So it includes Weston, Rothschild, Rib Mountain, WASA. Apparently there was some work done circa 2018, 2019 on what some potential additional transit routes would be. I'm not sure exactly what happened at that point in time that they didn't go through, or some of them may have went through, but they weren't successful. At this moment, there is the subgroup developed to see if there is an interest in there being some expansion of transit outside of the Wausau area through Wausau Transit. At this moment, this is a presentation that just talks a little bit about that work group, and then here would be all of the members of that work group. I think we've had 2 meetings, so it's very early on. A little bit about duties and responsibilities, and then some highlights from the previous study and survey, and some potential routes that they put together. The routes in here are just examples. There were ones that were priced out. The prices that are listed on the slides are very preliminary. They're not based on if there would be any grant programming that would qualify, or if routes were changed slightly. They're just estimates at this point in time. But from the subgroup that's been meeting, the conversation is really, we understand the importance of public transportation, particularly if you don't have a vehicle to access a job, if you have a disability and you can't drive, if there are other circumstances in your life where public transportation would make sense, as far as economics. But there's also hurdles in the cost of what it means for municipalities, and the expansion of capital that it would mean for Wausau Transit, and are all of those things achievable? This is the chicken and egg always of governance. Those questions really can't be answered until we have the question asked if there's interest to proceed with doing that additional research. So we were asked to just bring back these 3 questions and sort of have a conversation about, is there interest in exploring public transit or the expansion of public transit? What additional information would be needed if you wanted to continue the conversations that you would want to see? I know that both individuals from Wausau Transit and Mayor Denny have interest in coming to present to communities about that expansion. And then what kind of collaboration would you be looking for from the other municipalities that are a part of the transit work group? So we don't necessarily have to answer all of these questions tonight, but I wanted to introduce that the conversation was happening, and that these are the information that they're looking for before we would proceed the next step.
Thoughts on the bus line?
Do you think it would make sense to put out a survey or something to the community and see what the community's interest is in this? I mean, I recall, I don't know, 8 years ago or so, a very, very heated debate at the old municipal center about this topic, and I think there's a lack of proper information. I don't think people have a good understanding of what the bus service actually does in the area. So I think before we put a bunch of work into it, it would be nice to know, like, what is the community's actual interest in bus service in this area? Because I've gone up and down this road a few times.
Well, they're interested in the bus service, but they're not interested in paying for it. We did that. We put it out at a referendum. There were 2 referendums. Should we have a bus service, and how do we fund it? The bus service said yes, and the funding had said no. So you're gonna have to be very hard pressed for me to ever agree to a bus service. It services such a small area. And then I didn't think it was too bad. Like, there was a lady, my neighbor, who always had to get someone to take her someplace because she couldn't drive. And I thought, well, okay, there's that van that goes around. I thought that would be ideal for her. The only thing is, we weren't in the bus route, so then we couldn't even get that benefit. So, and with the type of issues we're having with our budget, I don't even know why we're looking at it, to be honest with you. That's my opinion.
So, I mean, however many years ago this was, when some of the area stores. I was at 29 Super and we put 10 grand in. That year was $110,000. The bus came down Grand Avenue through Schofield, came out to Target, Super 29, went around over to the hospital, double back, and I think it went down Business 51 in Rothschild, got on the highway and went back. I don't think it went in the Rib Mountain. I think they had something different. It was 110 grand. That was our portion, but 3/4 was paid by the state. So just remember that there's a large portion being paid by the state. Now, we can say, well, it doesn't matter, we don't have to pay for that. Well, indirectly, yes, we do. So if it's state funding or whatever funding, yes, everyone has to pay for that. I read through this whole brochure, not quite understanding what was coming up here. And the first alternative says this would bring a huge advantage to Wausau for more employment in Rib Mountain. It shows no advantage to Rib Mountain. The bus goes into the Rib Mountain retail corridor and then back. And same with here, it comes into Target, Pick and Save, all these out to the hospital and then back. I think it even goes down Jellinek a little bit by the school, but then back. Business 51 goes by the VA, jumps on the highway and then goes back. So it's great for the Wausau truly has public transportation. You drive through Wausau, they've got buses going down streets. They're connecting the neighborhoods. I would like to, if we're gonna even talk about this, I think we should be having all of our neighborhoods. When the bus was here, none of my kids could get on the bus. We'd have to take them to a bus stop. You couldn't walk 2 or 3 blocks to get to a bus, which Wausau residents do. Merrill residents do the same thing. But we're not really talking about public transportation. We're talking about jobs, enhancing jobs. Maybe Weston residents would drive to an area, get on a bus, and then go to Wausau. But why would you drive to Pick and Save to get on a bus to go to Wausau to have your job? So I just truly want everyone to understand what we're talking about here. And if we're gonna have truly public transportation, I wanna see those numbers. Because if we're talking 110 to 150,000 just to go through our business district and the hospital, I'll bet you if we truly went out into our neighborhoods and had a route, I think we'd be $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. And that's a stinker. I also remember watching the buses. I was one of those little pathetic people that sat on the road and would watch that thing go by and see 2 or 3 heads. And I really felt bad that this big bus was going by with 2 or 3 heads. I grew up in Appleton. I took the public bus to Appleton West High School. That thing was full. When I was a sophomore, I was scared to death on it. When I was a varsity, when I was a senior, I felt fine. But it was a big deal to jump on a bus then. So I think we should entertain the talks. I think we should talk to our other communities. And then we'd have, like Louis said, we truly understand what we're talking about. So, and I'll be real quiet during those presentations. Try to.
This is good feedback, so, yeah.
Yeah, please.
I sent Administrator Gaber some initial comments I had when I looked at this. One of the intros, I think it talks about how it would help people get to work. Similar to President Maloney's comment, it doesn't actually go to our business park. It doesn't go to Schofield's business park. So people wouldn't use it daily to go somewhere. It's meant as a special destination. So if we want people to use a bus for constant ridership, it needs to be something they can use to get to their place of employment or someplace they're going more than once a month or maybe once a week. I rode a bus when I was in college in Madison. I lived off campus for a year and a half, and there were doctors, nurses, everybody hopped on the bus, but it picked you up, in your neighborhood and took you to downtown, and then everybody rode it back. So, the purpose of that was to get it because parking's a lot difficult in Madison versus here. So, but if we were going to have it, it should actually take it so somebody in Weston could use it in Weston. They don't have to go to Wausau or Rib Mountain. I think it misses the mark on what Weston has to offer too.
well, one of the alternatives is Green Act too. I'm
Correct,
not gonna
yes.
say that, I mean, and it certainly should be, the tremendous amount of employees they have there in that huge campus, so.
Yeah.
But that would also enhance, you know, that Wausau ridership, to get to Green Act.
Yeah.
I think we should listen. When you go to these meetings, Jamie and Mike will just go put your hands up for them. I'm just teasing.
They were here on time.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I was cutting the grass.
Okay, any announcements? Nothing. Very well. Remarks from committee members.
Could I apologize, could I make one announcement?
You may, after remarks from committee members.
Okay, that's fair.
Yes, announcements, please.
I just wanted to announce and share that we do have an opening for a trustee position on the Board of Trustees. And the information is on our website and it's posted on all of our social media platforms. And as committee members, this is kind of a preview, you should consider a trustee appointment. And anyone listening or watching the meeting should consider a trustee appointment.
Unless Husheng is still on, because you're already here.
I think Jamie's on too.
Same goes. Very well. Items for next agenda. We got those 3 items, deferred action, right?
Yep, and I also have fee schedules, permits, and number of hours necessary, and the dispensary and Delta 9. And then Valerie, just on our next draft agenda, could we put mission after item number 3, so it would just be a standard number 4 that would be read?
Sure. Just, I'm sure others, I'm sure Jim and I'm sure Jamie and others have said this, but to the committee members, to the new committee members, I want to thank you all very much for serving and putting your name in the hat and wanting to get on this new committee. It's very much needed, and it's going to work hand in hand with some other committees, but some of these meetings aren't fun. And, but I really thank you, and I wish more people would do it, but thank you very, very much for serving. So, very much appreciate it.
So the next meeting will be Monday, October 7 at 5 p.m. 5 is still working good for everybody?
Yes.
Unless the grass is gonna get cut.
So trustee Pinstall, not next meeting, the 7th is great, but the meeting after November 4th, that would be the night before the general election. So if we just wanted to think about in November, if we wanted to slightly adjust that meeting to maybe be the 6th or the 28th, but just, we would be setting up this room and getting ready for general election the next day.
So we're gonna do it a different day or a different week?
I wouldn't be here the first week of November regardless, I'm out of the country.
That's a very-
I'll try to zoom in, but I don't know if I will.
Okay, so in November, you would be looking at 20.
The 28th would be the Monday
Yeah.
No, 28 would be the Thanksgiving.
Okay. 25th.
Oh, I got it. No.
November is when our general election used to be.
Yes, so it'd be November 4th.
That's our-
So wouldn't October 28th be the Monday before?
Oh,
I
yes.
understand. So you want 2 in October.
Potentially, or if we wanted to go to the 6th. And go the day after.
Preference on October 28th versus November 6th.
I was not.
So we have 2 gone that first week of
That's what
November.
we're on to, right?
Yeah. I'm gone the first
would
week,
be going
so-
the 6th as well.
So that sounds like probably the 28th would be forum, no, not. October 28th works for you, Brent?
Yep.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. We'll hold the 28th, and if anything changes, but if you can just mark it on your calendars
At 5?
at 5.
For the November meeting.
For the November
The
meeting,
November meeting will be October
28th.
At 5 P M. Simple as that. Very well. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn by Ermling, second. John. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carried. Okay.